So day four. Day four? No, day five, right. So yeah, recapping yesterday, we went on our holidays in the December and then again in February. And then basically over, a 2 month period, March, April, and into May, we were together, but she was very quiet, very distant. And, I went online to figure out what I could do. And the mistake that I made is that I would pull back, but I wouldn't pull back long enough. I would pull back for a week or a few days, and then I would reach out and she would come around. And so anyway, in May, she dropped the bomb that she said, "This is going to drive you crazy, but I'm just not feeling it." And, I said, "Fine, baby, do we have to do?" And we were apart for a week, and then boom, up her profile went on Match. So I did the same thing. And, she's a pretty shy girl. So, even that, to be honest, is a shit test to see what I'm going to do. And I didn't freak out or anything, but a couple of weeks went by just before the holiday in May. And, I reached out to her and said, "Hey, this isn't working." Because I had gone, as I said, I'm a reasonably attractive guy, and I can talk well. And as I mentioned in our first video, as far as online dating is concerned, as a man, if you stay in your lane and you wait for women to reach out to you, as opposed to you reach, because the odds of women responding favorably when you reach out to them is a lot lower than when they express interest in you and then you reach out to them. And so I, of course, had women reach out to me. And yeah, I went on a couple of dates and they were okay, but it's not that I have one-itis, but really, they didn't compare to her. Physically, they were not. They were nice, but she was really a 10. And between her physical presence and just her overall, she has a very brightness about her personality, which is very intoxicating. And so, yeah, I just went to her and I said, "Hey, and this was a mistake." I went to her and I really, at the end of the day, the word is, and I'm ashamed to say it, is I broke down. I said, "I'm terrified because I've been out there and the women out there do not compare to you. And I don't want to lose you." And even though she expressed empathy towards me at the time, it did not do anything for her attraction levels, because she had two things going on. In her mind, she had a love for me at that point like a brother, but not like a lover. So her profile did not come down, and so I continued to date. And I'm sure she went on a couple of dates. I'm sure, and I'll tell you why shortly. But so leading up to that May thing, though, when things were good, because our relationship would go in like waves of highs and lows, where I did things right and then did things wrong. And she had bought me. We had planned to go away for the holiday weekend on the Monday. She had bought me something, and I didn't know what it was. So leading up to the holiday Monday, she contacted me on the Friday and said, "Hey, I bought you this exotic car weekend." And the exotic car weekend was, where you go, or it was on the Monday, you go and basically drive things like Lambos and Ferraris and high-end Mercedes and stuff like that. So it blew me away. I was very delighted because it was expensive. It was like $400. Expensive for what it was. I would never buy it for myself, but when someone buys that for you, it's very touching. And so about that time, I started getting into law of attraction stuff. What I mean by that is that, I believe that we make our reality based on what we see in our future. Like if you plan things or you plan what you're going to do, you take those steps and you turn your imagination into reality. And I'm pretty good at that in my business. I'll buy things knowing because I buy and sell. I'll buy things knowing that I'm going to be able to do this or that. And that's really creating your reality. But in recent history, I've even gone so far as to sort of put out to the universe, and you can go on YouTube, there's lots of stuff on this, put out to the universe that I am going to sell this much today. I'm going to have this kind of thing today. I'm going to achieve this goal. And I actually write it down. And that's it's actually I did some research. A lot of big historical figures have done that in the past. Steve Jobs was noted as in his autobiography as being someone who could bend his reality, and he has a book called Diary of a Yogi, was his favorite book, and it talks about how you can just through the power of your mind do it. And make no mistake, it's not this stupid thing where you can just all of a sudden wish that $1 million is going to show up in your front lawn, because you have to look at nature. In nature, birds, they get up, they in the morning they know where the worms are, they go there, the worms are there, they eat them, they fly around, they know when it's time to mate. They don't really worry about anything, they just do it on autopilot, because I don't think birds have the same level of intellect as we do, and that's like if you look at nature in general, everything. There's a quote in the Bible that I've got a biblical background, but the quote in the Bible says, "Why do you worry? Not even Solomon, in all of his splendor, was robed as lovely as these lilies of the field." And so that basically just says that in nature, creatures they're built exactly in a way that they need to survive and thrive. Now, of course, environmental things will make them move because that's what creatures will do, right? But in a normal circumstance, that's just how it works. And I think that applies to we as humans. We have the power to know if we do employ a predictable set of variables, we're going to get a predictable outcome. And that's how I sort of run my life. But I've now started to apply it to my personal life. So in that particular case, she had said, okay, I've got this thing for you. And we had actually planned to go away together. And at that point, we technically were not together because she was on a dating site. But I sat down and I manifested. I wrote out my intentions. I said, we are going to have an awesome Victoria Day. We are going to, things are going to be great. We're going to have a good time. And, I invoked the power of the universe over the next couple of days, just as a sheer force of will. And on Sunday night, we had some communication, and basically on the following Monday morning, she said she was going to come. And I just, through sheer force of my will, made that happen. And when it seemed like it wasn't going to, it came together. So that showed me that the law of attraction really does work. Now, that being said, we went away, we had a great time. I did the auto thing in the morning, and then I sent a car to pick her up about an hour. And we went to a little touristy town that was nearby, and we had a beautiful day. Just like we always did. We're touching, each other, et cetera, and it was so overpowering because I missed her so much. When you're with someone and they come and they go, those times that you're together are like sweet drops of honey. It's like you're a starving man and those sweet drops of honey come and you just want so much more because you used to have so much more. I mean, our relationship started, we had sex every day, endlessly. I'm an older guy. I'm in my mid 40s, but I think I have a very high level of testosterone because I've been told I'm a pretty good sexual performer. I mean, I'm not going to blow my own horn, but I don't know many 45-year-old guys that can, go 5 times a night. And with and good self-control, so it's not just like, 5 minutes each round. We're talking where you can go like 4 or 5 hours, and that's, I would suggest it's pretty addictive for her. I mean, yeah, sure, you get something out of it, but I'm going back to what I was saying about being a pleaser, I have refined myself that way because I love to please my partner. So anyway, going back to saying about drops of honey, it was just so intoxicating. And so after that day was over, we really didn't have much talk and that and the other thing. And then later in that week, I just broke down and went to her and I said, listen, we need to take down our dating profiles and we need to work on our relationship. And that was the death knell of our relationship, like ultimately where she just put on all the brakes, because anytime you try and put a woman into a commitment, you're behaving like a woman. And that's what I did. So she said she needed a week to think about it. And a week went by and she said, I'm sorry, I don't want to be in a relationship with you anymore. And so here we are. It's been a week since that. Well, that proclamation came in earlier in the week when I started this blog, or vlog. And now I'm looking at a future where I have to, I'm as a businessman, I have always planned everything I had to do. So if there's been a challenge in my life, I simply look at it, I break it down and say, okay, how do I kill this dragon? I often said to her, I said, we were having all these problems. I said, and I wish this was something I could see. I wish this is a dragon that was there that I could just go get my sword and just slice it from tail to tip. Because I'm a very strong and powerful man, and I'm extremely physically capable, and I translate that into my work. But this dragon was in her mind. So now, after heavy analysis, because a lot of the actions that I manifested through, like I manifested this thing. I manifested this falling apart because of my fear all the time that she was leaving. Because it's not that I can't do better or do the same, but you get to a point where it's like if you have a child. You can have another child, or if you have 2 or 3 kids and one dies, you still have the other ones. That's a clinical way of looking at it. But when you love someone, you sort of give yourself over to a different plane of existence. And I'm not going to go so far as to say we're soulmates, although, you know what, based on, do soulmates exist? People are going to dispute that left, right, and center, but, I look at, this world, there's all these religions, they think they're right. Every religion, they think they're right, but the point is they largely have the same theme, supreme being, us, etc. And so I look at the world and I look at I look at the perfection of our planet, and atheists who say that, it just happened by accident, I just can't buy that. As a creator myself, I create things, but you can look at even emotional experiments. There's a Japanese doctor I heard about once that scientist, he did a research project even with just normal water, where he was involved with, they took normal water and they had one set of students curse out and treat the water like shit, and then the other ones tell the water how much they loved it. And between the two, there was a huge molecular difference in the nature of the water. So like I said, I believe this world has got so many things that we can't see. Just going back, what I was saying about how you're manifesting energy, and when you believe someone is going to leave you, that's what's going to happen. Or, when you're driving around thinking that the cops are going to pull you over, that's what's going to happen. So you have to always be in a mindset where you're not worried about that at all. You're just, focused on what you're doing and focusing on positive things. So towards that end of our relationship, I was already manifesting that we were back together, but I think I came to that table a little late because some things you go to manifest take a little longer. And of course, you can't control the way another person thinks. But you have to make yourself the most attractive version of yourself. So, like I said, this is where we are now. It's day 5 of my no contact adventure. And gonna do this. Gonna make this work. So anyway, stay tuned. Tomorrow we'll be talking about my plans and just a lot of the subtle aspects of when you choose a partner and things you want to look for, and maybe some of the wisdom that my several decades on the planet have taught me so far. This has been the lesson of my life, and I am going to subdue and dominate. That's what I do, and I will do it again. Anyway, guys, stay tuned.